Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Sharice Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. So are you feeling like there's more to life? Like maybe you could be doing something else, or you're struggling with feeling like you have an imposter syndrome, or you're just not quite sure that there's something better that you could be doing, or maybe you're comfortable, but you feel like you should be doing something else. Well, today is your day because Stacie Shifflett is incredibly accomplished, and I'm so excited to have her on the show because we are going to talk about a lot of different topics. She is very well-rounded, has a ton of experience, and it is such a treat. So Stacie, without further ado, I'm Sharice Walker, your host, and why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes. Hi, Teresa. I'm so happy to be here. I am Stacie Shifflett. I am the founder of my current company, which is called Modern Consciousness, because we need to live more consciously in this modern world of ours, right? With all of the modern stressors. And oh my gosh, are we experiencing a lot of those at the moment? I call myself a very proficient student of life. I have had numerous careers, lots of success, and I have taken on this mission to serve others, and that's what brings us together today.
I love that. And it's interesting because this podcast is for women who feel like they should be doing more, or they're just not satisfied in their current life cycle. And you have been through from llama, right? Llama raising, and I don't want to say farming. What would it be
I
called?
call it farming. I tend to reinvent myself about every decade. And I didn't notice until later in life that that's a pattern for me. But I was in the hospitality industry for about a decade, and it's a nice way of saying I waited tables and tended bar. I managed a bar as well. I've done government consulting. I've been a subject matter expert in federal government procurement. I acquired a $50 million company one time without investing a personal penny. That's a fun story. I had a construction company, built five-story apartment buildings in Washington, D.C. I don't know how to build an apartment building, but I did it. Had a llama farm. Yeah, so lots of different things. And now I have modern consciousness. So I am proof that you can reinvent yourself and create your life.
And see, I love that. Like you're an inspiration, to me especially because I'm that type of person as well. Like I love to do this and I love to do this and I love to do this. And I think it's interesting because a lot of times we're raised a certain way where, oh, this is the path you're going to take and this is the path you have to stay on. And I have a family member that's like that. They are miserable in the life that they have created. And I'm like, then go do something else. Oh, I can't. And I said, why can't you? And so, how are you able to switch from being an apartment developer to being a llama farmer to being a best-selling author to now with your modern consciousness? Like, how do you do that?
I just do it. It's it's been natural for me, and I'm persistent. I have a lot of resilience. Now, when I went from the restaurant business, I was young, right? I went to work at 16, not because I had to, because I wanted to.
Mhm.
I was also the kid who the principal called home and my parents in my junior year and said, "Do you know your daughter's in our office and said she's going to quit school if she can't graduate?" I graduated early. I had enough credits. I just kind of do. So when I got married, I'm divorced now, and transitioning from the hospitality industry, which was not respected like it is today, right? That was a long time ago. I'm 68. It was not as well respected as it is today. I had a hard time, but a friend of my mom's from her church was kind enough to give me a job. She was a very small woman-owned business, did government contracting. I didn't really have the skills, but I've had good mentors and I'm self-taught. I never finished college either. I'm pretty well self-taught. So I started keeping books and she started teaching me word processing right on those great big floppy disks and all this stuff, right? I did know how to type. Within a year from taking that job, and she was a small company. She kept losing people. There were some very unfortunate events. And within a year of that, I actually single-handedly managed the installation of all of the, I'm going to date myself, all of the IBM PC XT desktops throughout the Department of Health and Human Services. I had a technical team that did the installation, I taught this word perfect and Lotus 123 and MS-DOS and rolled it out to the agency. So I just learn, right? If I'm interested, I'm all in and I just do it.
Yeah. And I think that that is something that I wish more of us women particularly would do because it's excuse after excuse. And not that it's not a valid excuse, but it's, I think, fear of doing something. And so I think you talk about how you feel like a lot of people are running on autopilot, right? That they
Yes,
just keep
yes.
going and going. So how do you recommend, and let's get back to the current business I'm sure that you talk about that you're doing, is how do they live with more intention and say, okay, you know what? If you're listening to this today and you're like, I do like my life, I'm happy with my life, I'm comfortable, but I'm on autopilot and I feel like there's more that I want to do or I could be doing to find more peace and happiness. What is your recommendation?
My first recommendation is something I do with all my clients, which is let's do a life assessment because so often we try to solve the wrong problem. We think we know what's wrong or what's causing the irritation, and often that's really not what it is. So one way I characterize it is that when the activities of your life, right, your schedule,
Hmm.
when that's the momentum, when that's driving the momentum of your life, rather you intentionally directing it, that's where we get into trouble, right? So we're just trying to keep up, and we tend to add things to our schedules, and we tend to take on more responsibilities. This is mompreneurs, right? So one example that I love for moms and parents in general, I see so many parents that enroll their kids in all these different extracurricular activities.
Hmm.
We do it with the best of intentions. But what happens is we get busier, right? So there go the family meals, and we're screaming through the school line, and we're picking up the kids, and we're going through drive-through and eating McDonald's. And in the meantime, you get to the soccer field or whatever it is, and you're trying to watch your kid, but you're looking at your phone and you're doing emails. You're not present.
Yeah.
And and one thing that I work on in that assessment is we really need to figure out what's working for us and what isn't, right? It's the outcomes. The outcome of are we focused on the outcomes of enrolling our kids in those activities? Or does it just make our lives busier and more hectic and more anxious, quite frankly? So it's a matter of bringing ourselves around and staying focused on what we're really trying to achieve. What is our outcome?
Mhm. I love that. And that's something that growing up, I was so involved in so many things. And there's a lot of reasons why we won't get into, but I stayed busy to avoid other things. And I know what those other things were. Writing my book, it really came clear to me as well. And so as a mother, I said, okay, I'm not going to have my kids doing five different things. I don't need them to just feel like they're these overachievers that have so much pressure on themselves and they feel like they have to do everything, they have to be the best at everything. And for me, I had a lot of health issues growing up because of the stress that I was putting on myself. And I think there's a fine line too that not getting your kids involved in enough, but then getting them involved in too much, that they're just overly scheduled. And so as a mom, you're right, going from place to place to place to place, making sure that I'm doing all this because I have to be this perfect mom. Oh, wait, but I'm also a businesswoman. And so I love that you talk about that because it's like, yeah, why are you putting them in that? Like long term, what do you want them to learn? Um,
Yeah, it should be serving everybody, right? Or is what you wanted your kids to experience, is that the experience they're having,
yeah,
right? You could be terrible at a sport and you just keep pushing them. I mean, are they happy?
yeah.
Are you happy with the current situation and schedule? And again, we do these things with the absolute best of intentions. Our parents did what they did
Mhm.
generally with the best of intentions, right? I'll give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Um, but the outcomes are not always aligned with what we're truly desiring to experience. And I look at achievements as what we want to experience. What do you want to be experiencing in your life? And that's generally not frustration, anxiety, hate my job. Why hate your job? Why
Mm.
go to a job every day that you hate?
Yeah.
We don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We have choices, but we're programmed to not really understand that we do have those choices.
It's so interesting because I got back from a week-long vacation and my husband and I, for the first time in years, took a trip together, only us. And
Wow.
I get on my computer super early in the morning and I can be on it till like 3 or 4 in the morning and working all day. And on this trip, I chose, yes, I brought my computer, but I was on it for maybe 20, 30 minutes total the entire week. And I decided to have intention and be present with my husband. And actually, we had a phenomenal time. And so I came back and I realized like one of my daughters, because I have four and then I have two different marriages, and she's the oldest of this too, and she's going into junior high next year. And I realized, oh my gosh, I have worked my entire time with my nose in my computer. And yes, I've been here a stay-at-home mom. Yes, I've been there
Yeah.
for them. But am I present with them? I could be doing better. In my opinion, I could do better, right? And so I realized I've got to like change some things because before I know it, like my youngest of the first four, he's getting ready to leave and he's going to be gone for 2 years and I won't be able to see him or talk to him. I mean, very much. And so it's going to be one of those things where I'm starting to realize, wow, my kids are growing up and I'm never going to have this time again. And I think that intention, it's like, okay, so this project's important to me, but is it more important than spending time with my kids? So I'm in this process of reevaluating all these things that I'm doing. It's like, is this that important? Is this that important? Do I really want to do this? And I think that you talk about like being conscious, being present, making sure that we know what our triggers are. And I'm like, okay, why am I feeling like I have to do 12 different things at the same time? And really, you talk about feeling overwhelmed and the triggers. And so, how can we use those things to grow and to change rather than react?
Well, emotional triggers is a favorite subject of mine.
Mhm.
Um, if I could only instill one change in people, it would be that calm those emotional triggers because we're reacting. And I really learned this going through my divorce. My ex-husband certainly knew how to push buttons, and I had a lot of reason to react. There was a lot going on at that time. And I finally just realized one day, Stace, you don't have to react,
Yeah.
right? Just don't. It's like, why put myself through that? Now, he clearly did some things, right? He dumped a lot of my stuff on my driveway on Christmas Eve morning. Well, why would you do that? That was calculated, right? That was just mean. But as time went on, I was like, it's my choice. I get to choose if I react or not. And so what I did in that situation, I thought about it and then I thought, okay, I'm going to just make myself a new habit here. So what my mental habit became was just to smile and say, wow, I'll give you one thing, you're consistent. Now, I had a word for what he was consistently being, but I kept that word in my head, right?
That is great.
So it would just make me chuckle a little bit, right? Instead of reacting. And it was true. He was just being consistent. That's all he knew. And so yeah, I have a free workbook on my website that helps you walk through your triggers. I am a person that asks a bazillion questions. It's a matter of widening our perspective and our knowledge, right? And understanding it and then changing it so that we have to understand why we're reacting. It's not usually anything to do with anything outside of ourselves. It's internal to us. And so that's, if I only had one piece of advice for people, it would be that calm those emotional triggers. It is absolutely life changing. And that practice alone helps you start to be aware. It raises your awareness of other things. If you feel that somebody has slighted you or insulted, that triggers you, but it teaches you to look within and say, okay, why am I reacting that way?
Mhm.
It's not necessarily somebody else's behavior. Why are we reacting that way?
I have a question for you about that, though, follow up, because when we were on vacation, I gave a lot of money to a friend or a person, an investment opportunity, and they were doing very, very well, like had doubled, tripled the money that I had. And then on vacation, I get a call saying I lost it all. It said zero. And I just thought, oh my gosh, here I am again. Because if people know my story. And so I just sat there like, oh, okay. Dang, that's more than I even lost with the first two people. And I was talking to someone yesterday and we were talking about how much, and she goes, Sharice, how do you not have any gray hair? And even though I diet, it's not gray hair. And so I said, I don't know. I think it's just, it's money, right? It comes and it goes. So I'll just make some more money and I'll just work harder to make more. But it's like for me, I've started to realize I do have a choice. I can either freak out, which is going to do no good for me, or I can just say, okay, how can I solve this and move forward? But how do you help the people that don't realize that they're triggering, that they ex
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, you're triggered, and like, how do you help those people?
Well, there's another aspect of that, and that is honor your emotions, right? Like the experience that you just went through, you need to honor that feeling.
Mhm.
We don't get stuck there, and it will probably we filter everything through our worldview, and possibly in the future you will be filtering through your worldview that you're not going to make investments in anybody else at this point,
Okay.
and that's okay. Right? That's okay. And then there's other decisions to be made within that, right? Do I fully understand in your situation? Do I fully understand what happened? And then sometimes we have to realize they probably pretty well feel like crap too, right? It
Oh,
wasn't what they wanted to do.
yeah.
So there's a lot of things involved in that. And how good of a friend is it? And what is the compassion? And what? So there are all these different aspects. And I do something, it's actually, I think, an NLP practice, which is called perspective shifting. So this is how I feel. Okay, so how does that other person feel? And try to step into their shoes and their perspective. And it gives us a broader foundation to work from. And then I'll say, okay, so if there was an independent, somebody over here, some third party not involved in the situation that was watching what happened, what would they be seeing? So we shift the perspective to different people, including people that aren't involved in the situation, and that helps us broaden. And I believe those questions are in my workbook too. It helps us broaden the way that we're looking at it, and it doesn't mean we don't process the emotion around it because sometimes we have to. Our emotions are valid, but it helps us to better understand those emotions and make better choices going forward. I've known people that, man, they're just on a tight wire, right? They're pulled off. I'm going to have a great day today. I saw this meme, this not meme, but a personal development. Yeah, that's my saying for the day. And here I go. And they're just pulled off track all the time, right? So they're letting all these external forces disrupt them being grounded and centered. And granted, there are a lot of things that pull us off, right? My house here on Siesta Key flooded in the hurricane
Mhm.
last year. I was displaced from my home for 9 months while repairs were underway. Um, so yeah, how do you react to those things, right? I tried for that, stay in gratitude. There's nothing I could do about it. It sucked, right? I was grateful I had a contractor. We had just finished installing floors, as a matter of fact, from a repair, and then it flooded. But instead of pulling myself into worry and dread and all of this, did I have a couple of good cries? Yeah, it was sad. But mostly I stayed grounded in gratitude for the things I could be grateful for. I just had a few inches in my house of water. Some people had 3 to 5 feet of water or sand. My house wasn't a total loss by any means. I had the money to start paying for it. I had a contractor that I trusted to be here. So I told myself, okay, so the first thing I have to do, the only thing I have to do first is get the house fixed, deal with the insurance and all the stuff you have to deal with for sure. But my first action is just fix the home. My second action is to get back in the home, which I am back in it now. And then now that I'm here and settled in, I get to choose what am I going to do in the future in a more grounded, thoughtful way, right? Instead of reacting, oh, I don't want to live someplace where there's hurricanes. I need to sell this house. It helps us be more intentional. And that's just how I live my life at this point. It's a habit.
I love that. And that's healthy. Okay, so there's somebody listening to this right now, they're thinking, okay, I love that. I want to be able to change. I don't know what to do. So when we're making decisions, what is your process when we're just like, I don't know, there's uncertainty. They're paralyzed with how to get started or what the uncertainty is. What's your advice?
I will take myself through my own assessment process, right? So my first process is assessment. My second is aspirations. How do you want to feel? So I have all the life domains, and I would, I'm even doing that with my home situation right now. What do I love about this home? What are the risks involved here? Where am I at in this stage of my life at 68? Do I want to deal with this again? Um, it's a financial burden. I start looking at all the pieces and parts, and I don't look at things just isolated, right? I'm not just looking at the house. I like to look at all of it because generally, if we have an issue in one area of our life, it shows up in other areas as just disguised, right? So this is a rather specific issue, deciding if I want to stay on a barrier island or not, but it does affect other areas of my life, right? I have a home in Virginia. It's in rural Virginia. There's not a lot of amenities there. Tons of amenities in Sarasota, Florida. So I just kind of, but my son's in Virginia. So I just start looking at the pieces and parts through my process. And it helps me make a thoughtful assessment.
I love that. And I'm totally going to take your assessments. I'm excited to.
Okay. I'd love for you to and to hear how it goes for you. Absolutely.
And I have to say, you do not look 68. So what's your secret?
I don't know. My body actually feels like it's aged a lot in the last couple of years. They can't find anything wrong with me. They say, "Oh, you're perfectly healthy." I'm like, "Okay, well, I've got some pain, but that's okay." I have shifted myself to a default emotion of joy. And that has taken a lot of conscious, intentional practice over the last decade. And we all have a default emotion. And what would you prefer, you, the global you, what would you prefer that to be, right? I know some people that are pessimists, oh my God, the very worst thing is going to happen in the world. I'm happier with my default emotion being joy. And again, it doesn't mean that things don't happen because they do, but I process it differently.
Okay, so let's talk about that because
Yeah.
you've programmed yourself to have that joy, right? And so how
Hmm.
do you evolve beyond the old programming? Because mine is an instant because of the life I grew up with. I'm very self-critical. So I used to be very critical of others, and I've stopped. Like that is a conscious daily effort to say, okay, what can I control? What can I not control? And so how do you suggest to people to change the programming that they have and have awareness, have purpose, have power, so they're not this victim? Like real quick, I was having a
Yeah.
conversation with somebody. I don't want to out her, but oh my gosh, we were going through yearbook pictures, and I never knew this about this person, but she was like this queen. I don't even know what the name was, but the popularity contest where she was voted to be queen of her senior class, and then she was involved in all these things. Well, I haven't known her very long, but the person I've known is, oh, I'm so sick, and I'm so this, and I'm so such a victim. And everyone else, like her life, she can't live her life because of this person or because of this or because, and I'm like, when are you going to take control and like live your life? Because she's not young. And so, like, how do you help those people? I know they have to want to be helped first to make the change, but if they do want to make that change, how do they switch from that old programming?
Well, we have full responsibility for ourselves. It's not anybody else. So that's a bit of a shift. And we take ourselves everywhere we go. So who do you want to hang out with, right? So that's a line I use frequently.
Mhm.
And I think I think what happens a lot of times, because I did a lot of personal development work, right? I was in Tony Robbins Platinum Partner for 2 years and all this stuff, and Joe Dispenza. You wouldn't believe what I've done and how much money I've spent.
I know, right there with you.
But and we come out, myself included, we've expanded our knowledge base, and wow, we've had some breakthroughs, and oh yeah, I didn't understand it that way, and no, now I do. But people get home and they don't know how to apply that practically in their life, right? To move your life in the direction that you want to go. And that's why I call my process, it's called Elevate Your Life, but we're actually charting your treasure map to joy. So you can't change too much at once. So what I help clients do is go, okay, so what one, two, or three things, right? It just depends, will move the needle furthest in the direction that I want to go. And by that I mean what I want to be experiencing. Sometimes it's not a big change. Sometimes it's a small change, but we have to be aware of it and we have to consistently practice and bring ourselves back around, right? Because we default to our behavior, and to change any habit, we just have to consciously do it, and we have to do it again and again and again. And then it becomes second nature. And then it's great because you don't have to think about that. And
Mhm.
it's an iterative process. So what can I do next? And what can I do next? And that's how I would tell people, do I have time to share one quick story about a wife? I'm not sure how we're doing on time.
Just
Um, yeah, her husband had retired and she was still working, and she got to where she was just dreading coming home because he was ready to talk and ready to socialize, and they had a good relationship and they could communicate. But her irritation was growing, his irritation was growing because she was grouchy when she got home. And I was like, well, why don't we just set some expectations,
mm,
right? You guys can talk and let him know, honey, on Mondays, Monday's a bad day for me. It's the first day of the week and there's a lot going on. And when I get home, it would be a great day for you to fix dinner. And when I get home, I need a half hour of just my time. And I would really appreciate it if you would do that for me. But Tuesday, that movie we've been wanting to watch, we'll get carry out and we'll watch the movie. So his expectation when she comes home on Monday is that she needs a little bit of time. He's going to fix dinner. So she's feels better coming home because she's created that boundary and he's accepted it, right? It takes two people. And then they schedule things together that they're excited to do together. So on a Tuesday, her expectation is, oh, we're going to have carry out and we're going to watch a movie. So it changes her frame of mind so that when she's driving home, she's not dreading driving home
mm,
and getting home. So sometimes it's something small,
yeah,
seemingly small, that gets you the biggest result.
I love that. That is so good. Okay, so I have two last questions.
Yep.
The first one is you've started a lot of businesses, you've been around the block a little, so you're experienced. If you were starting a new business today, what is one piece of advice that you wish you would have known then that you know now?
Oh gosh. Starting a new business. Okay, the biggest this business has been a real experience for me because I did it myself. I discounted all my previous experience, thinking this is a completely new field, right? I'm not experienced in this. I have tons of experience in this. I've been coaching and nurturing and mentoring people for decades. My construction company, I hired somebody that knew something about construction. So work to your strengths, fill in your gaps. That's one. But recognize your strengths. Recognize your weaknesses too, because that's where you got to fill the gaps, but also recognize your strengths, and all of your life experience is applicable.
100%. So I was interviewing my son, right? I'm getting ready to hire him because he's having a hard time getting a job. And so I said, okay, he has special needs. And so let me coach him. Let's see this process. And so from him submitting his resume to him interviewing with me, it's like, okay, why did you do that? And why did you say that? And why let's talk about that. And I think that he's like, well, I don't have a lot of experience. I said, are you kidding me? You've been my nanny for the last 3 years, which he really has. He's taken care of me
Tons
and
of,
your two kids. And so I'm like, you've had to make dinner. You've had to take them places. You've had to work out things. You've had to talk with people. You've had to negotiate with them. I'm like, stop discounting your experience. Everything that you've done at one job, you can transfer to another job. Like, not everything, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, there's so many
yeah.
transferable skills. And I think it's so easy for us, like you talked about, to discount your huge experience. And I mean, you have a plethora of knowledge and experience, and it's easy to have this imposter syndrome, but it's not true. And so good.
Well, it's human nature to focus on what's wrong, and we forget to focus on what's right about ourselves. And there's a lot that's right about ourselves.
It's so true. Okay, so the second question, real fast, is about moms because this is the Mompreneur Show. So
Mm-hmm.
I want you to imagine yourself sitting on a park bench, and this 9 month pregnant woman comes and sits next to you, first time mom, and you get talking. And I'm assuming your kids are a little older just because
Yeah.
you said how old you are. So you have a huge gamut. You have the whole perspective from when they're first born to now they're adults having their own kids. What is one piece of advice you could give that mom? It could be anything, any stage, that you wish you would have been told when you were a mom.
Well, I think self-care is important through the whole process. Enjoy every moment of it. And it's hard sometimes because it's frustrating. But I'll tell you the biggest thing I noticed raising my son, um, I would forget that he's grown. All of a sudden I'd be like, wow, he's 4 now. He should be at this level where I was still maybe treating him like he was 2.5. You know what I mean? So they're growing also, and our parenting skills grow, but it's like, even that, like and I'm not saying look at their skills to the norm or they shouldn't conform to some scale, but realize that your child is growing and help them grow into that next level because we also parent habitually.
Yeah.
So we have to reevaluate how we're parenting all the time too.
Such good advice. And that's, I realized when my twins turned 25, I'm like, oh, wait a sec. They really are adults now. Like I'm your age.
Yeah.
I was your age when I had you. And so now it's I need to treat you as the adult. They really do get to make your own decisions. And yes, they should have many years before that, but it was me still trying to go, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And now it's like, you know what? You do it. It's your life, Charlie Brown, and there's consequences to actions and choices, but there's also joy. And so it is true, making sure that you respect the fact that they're growing.
It's so hard. I agree.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
that would be my advice nonetheless.
Well, if our listeners wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Everything is on my website, modernconsciousness.com, and I'm sure you'll have it in the show notes. The free offers that I have are under the programs. There's all kinds of stuff on there, right? I've got blogs I've written and my full program is explained. There's information about me, so links to my social media. So that's where to go if you're interested in connecting with me.
That's great. And any parting wisdom that we didn't talk about that you wish we would have?
Oh, you don't have to conform to society's rules. I haven't, and that's a whole nother discussion. But you don't have to conform. You get to create your own magic and chart your unique treasure map to joy because it really is unique to each of us.
It is. And I think it's you don't even have to conform to what you think that you should be doing.
Oh, by all means, no, because that's society, right? That's everything we've been taught.
It's true. And that is why Unbreakable Mompreneurs, we talk about finding your peace, your passion, and your purpose because it's your desire, it's your dreams, and realizing that you can accomplish whatever you can and want to. And so if you're having difficulty with that, please reach out to Stacie because it sounds like you have a fantastic plethora of information or resources that can help people find what they want to do in life and their peace, their passion, and their purpose. So thank you for being on.
Thanks so much. It was a blast. Thank you.
And Unbreakable Mompreneurs, go out and make it a great day. And if you like this, please subscribe and share. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Sharice Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Sharice Walker.